Evening everyone, and welcome back to the vlog. Now I'm on my way to a fairly local oak woods to photograph the wild bluebells, and I wasn't going to go this year. I've been a few times, and you know, you can perhaps overdo it with the sort of wildflowers and the bluebells, but I went to the oak woods a couple of days ago just to have a look, and it was absolutely stunning. A real carpet of wildflowers, and I thought, well, it's just a shame not to really sort of make the most of that opportunity. So anyway, that's where I'm heading, and I thought it'd be really nice in this episode to see if we can get some real painterly images of those stunning wildflowers in the oak woods. So I thought on the way I'd maybe astound you with some interesting facts to help build the excitement a little bit for this evening's photo shoot. First fact is that bluebells tend to grow in oak woods because the oak trees tend to grow their leaves a lot later in the year. So there's a lot more light coming through the forest canopy, and they like the ground that hasn't been disturbed. And of course, ancient oak forests have been around for a long time, and the ground has just been left. And another fact, which is something that I didn't realise, was that they're actually protected. Wild bluebells are protected, which means that if you try and dig them up or anything, then you can actually be fined, which is something I didn't realise. And the UK has over half the population of bluebells, and I don't know why that is. If you know, leave me a comment below. I'd be really interested to find out. Anyway, let's head for the oak forest. So I've just stopped to get a few images through the woods here at some of these beautiful oaks. The light's just cracking through the trees, and we've got some really nice light patches through here. But my main aim this evening is actually to put on the macro lens, see if I can get some close-up shots, and as I said before, to try and get some real nice painterly images. But it's going to be difficult because there's still a fair bit of wind out, which means there's a lot of movement. And when you're photographing macro shots, you want them to be as still as possible, especially if there isn't too much light. Anyway, let me just I'll just finish getting this shot with the light coming through. Hopefully that's my first image of the evening, and well, here's the first shot, and let's go and see if we can find some close-ups for some macro work. So I'm just taking another shot through the oak woods here. There's the oak just in front of me is really just catching some side light, and then I don't know if you can see from there, but there's a sort of a branch that's come down that is just coming out of the bluebells and the grasses, and that again is catching the light. And then every now and again, as the clouds go by, we get some nice patches of light coming through, and with those patches of light really give the image a little bit of depth. But it's darker off behind, so I think that's really nice, just having those patches of light in front. I'll just show you on the back of the camera what I'm looking at. So you can see on the back of the camera, we've got this beautiful oak that's just on my left-hand side. You can just see some people coming up the path behind there. But that oak's really just catching that side light. And then we've got this branch that comes up. Now, the light's not there at the moment, but if you just look back at a couple of the images that I've already taken, you can see how that light just comes through there and captures that branch, catches the side of that tree. And I love the darkness sort of leading off into the oak woods behind with that beautiful patch of bluebells there. So not a bad image, not sort of a great composition, but I think it's really nice just capturing the woods as they are with that light coming through from the clouds and those beautiful beds of bluebells off in the distance there. So in amongst some of these bluebells are some of these beautiful stitchwort. They're the white ones that you can see just scattered in and around. But at the moment that wind's still coming through there. But I thought I'd start off by just trying to capture one of those with a couple of small buds behind. So what I've done is I've put on my 105 Sigma macro lens, and I'm hoping just to be able to, without going into the bluebells and obviously damaging any flowers, is seeing as if I can get as close as I can to that one stitchwort there that's just got the buds with it. Anyway, I'll set up the camera, show you what I'm looking at. So I've managed to find a couple of the stitchwort that have got a lovely bit of light coming through onto them, which the nice thing about that is because they're so bright, I'm able to darken down the background. You can see behind that it's really dark, but the light's really nicely catching some of these buds. And what I really like about using the macro lens is that it really softens out that background. All I'm really doing is making sure that the center of that flower is lovely and sharp. The one behind will be nice and soft, and so will these buds coming up behind. But then we've got that lovely dark background that surrounds it, and that will give a beautiful soft image to those gentle white flowers catching the sun there. So I'm shooting on around about f16, f18, and about a quarter of a second. And you can see that there's actually a bit of movement in there still. Unfortunately, we've still got a bit of breeze coming through, but it is stopping now and again. I guess as it's getting later in the evening, we're losing some of that wind. And there we go, there's the shot. Beautiful, lovely light coming off of those petals, really warm and gentle. That light's really gone behind some dark clouds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to the camper van, get a coffee, and I've got a really neat gadget that I'm looking forward to trying out. So we get contacted by lots of people asking if we can show their products off in the vlogs, and I've got to say 99% of the time we say no, because they're not relevant and don't really spark any excitement. But when the kind people are out and contacted us and said that they had a coffee machine that they'd like us to try, I thought, gotta try it. Love coffee, love being out, love drinking coffee. So they sent us this, the portable espresso machine. Now I've left it in the box because actually it's so nicely packaged, but I've got to say I have tried it out and the coffee is absolutely delicious. So let me show you what's in the box and how to brew the perfect cup. So this is the box that the espresso machine came in, and as I say, I left it back in the box because I thought it was just so nicely packaged. But let me just show you what comes in the box. We'll push that to one side. Really nice packaging. And if we open up the box, it's really well displayed, lots of good instructions, but most importantly, delving down past all of the instructions, we've got the espresso machine itself. Now what you get in the box is the coffee machine itself, a cup, two different types of filters. One of them's on the coffee machine, the one I've used already. You get a small little serving cup and a tamper and a USB charger. Now this is designed so that you can take it out and about with you. You can take it out on your walks, you can take it out in the car, and you can brew the perfect cup of coffee. Now you get two options. There's a couple of pods, capsules here, one for actual coffee capsules and one for ground coffee. Now I've been using the ground coffee one because I've already got a coffee machine at home. We grind our own beans, so this is perfect for the job. Anyway, let me show you how we brew that perfect cup of coffee. So they say it takes around about 200 seconds to heat the water and to pour out the perfect cup. So obviously it's a lot quicker. If you're going to put hot water in the top, then it's just a case of actually pushing the coffee through. So anyway, let's make a cup, what we've got here. So I'm going to use the capsule that takes the actual ground coffee. This is the one that will take pods, which is obviously a little bit easier if you're out and about. They supply a nice little cup which actually clips nicely onto the filter adapter there. So we can put that in and then just nicely tamper down the coffee. And they say that it heats the water up to around about 92 degrees centigrade, which is about right really for that for a really nice cup of espresso. So I'm just going to pop the lid on that capsule and then connect it to the bottom of the coffee maker. Screw back on the filter, and there we go. And then what we do is we put our water in the top, fill it up to 50 ml. There's a nice clear mark inside there showing where the 50 ml mark is, and then we'll pour us a nice cup. There's a cup that goes on the end that we're brewing into. We'll put that down nice and flat. We can press the button just the once. It will show us how much power is left on the actual espresso maker. These can be charged by a 12 or 24 volt supply from the car, or you can charge it using the USB as well with a small connection there. Get the cold water, let's fill it up to 50 ml. I can smell that coffee already, and it does smell so good. So let's just fill this up to 50 ml. Put the top back on the coffee maker, and then we press and hold for just over 2 seconds. Wait for the beep, and that's it. Our coffee is brewing. So I'm just waiting for that to brew. Now what happens is once it gets up to temperature, it will filter the coffee through into the cup below. You can get around about, if you're going using cold water, I think you can get around about 5 cups out of this before it needs recharging. But obviously if you're using hot water, you can get around about 200 cups of coffee, which will keep you going. And that's it, the perfect cup of coffee. Now I've got to say, we've got lots of devices in this camper van, different ways of making coffee, but this is the closest that I've tasted to the actual espresso machine that we've got back at home. The coffee is absolutely delicious. You can actually see there's a crema on the top there. So what are my initial thoughts? Well, I've got to say it produces a really stunning coffee. I mean, if you're used to an espresso machine and you like your coffee at home coming straight from the machine itself, then you're going to love this. It really does produce a beautiful cup of coffee. It's heavy, it's weighty. Would I take it outdoors? Don't know. Backpack, that could really add to the weight, especially if you've got all your camera gear with you. But there's nothing nicer than being out and having that real fresh ground cup of coffee. Retails for £139. You can get 10% off if you use the code ANDYLOCK. There's a link in the description below. I'm going to keep using it. I'll let you know in 6 months how I feel after it's been out and about with me. But gotta say, a beautiful cup of coffee. It's amazing when you come to a woodland like this and it's absolutely surrounded by these gorgeous wildflowers. But once you start putting the macro lens on and looking close, it's really a lot harder to find ones that are perhaps what I would sort of almost call perfect, with beautiful sort of petals and leaves around them. And what I'm doing here is I've just found one, and I've managed to sort of isolate one with a bit of backlight coming behind it, which is really helping to soften that image. And what I'm doing is being really careful by positioning the camera so that there's no distractions behind. Now, because I'm shooting on the macro lens, obviously everything's really soft behind. You can't see anything in focus, but it's still important, that color and that light, to really sort of help isolate the flower. At the moment, I've just got the one bluebell in my image, so I want to make sure that there's nothing too distracting behind. And what I like about this shot is there's lots of greens, but that light is catching behind, and I think that's really helping to punch out the beautiful colors in this bluebell. So anyway, let me take this shot, and here's the image. So there's a few things that I'm doing to capture some of these beautiful bluebells. When I'm capturing them individually, what I'm doing is trying to find the ones that have got a bit of light on them so I can really have dark backgrounds. I think that really helps to punch out the flowers. And then sometimes what I'm doing is actually shooting a bit more into the light, but making sure I've got some of those bluebells behind just to add a little bit of splash of color as well. Now I'm just photographing, there's just one bluebell here that is just capturing. It's just on the edge of the log and it's just capturing that warm light that's coming behind me. And then we've got these dark, deep grasses that are behind, which really is just, there's no detail in it because we've got the macro lens on there. So it's amazing how quickly that light goes. Look, you can just see behind me now how it's dropping behind the hill. And that actual time where we had that golden light on the flowers was incredibly fleeting. And I'm just running around tearing about getting some shots. But what I was really looking for were trying to capture the sort of flowers that had that warm light on them so that I could darken the backgrounds, really isolating them. And you've got to be so careful. We're obviously walking around here. You don't want to go into the flowers, so you're a little bit limited. And I think that with the 105 macro lens, you do have to get quite tight. Maybe perhaps putting on the 70 to 200 and zooming in a little bit more. But wow, it's absolutely beautiful out here. And it's just quieting down there. There's nobody around. You can hear the birds. And you can see just behind me there, the sun's going down. And it really is beautiful. I think you have to sort of stay really focused as well, because, you know, I came to shoot the sort of bluebells as single flowers, create some nice art pieces, but you're looking around the woods and you're seeing that light, and it's so tempting to start photographing the trees. And but that's why we come back and photograph some more, I guess. Anyway, absolutely beautiful. I think I've got some great shots, and if I haven't included any, I'll put them all up at the end. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the video. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And well, I think that's it. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.